Good evening, my name is Kacper Paradowski and you're watching Poland Daily News. We begin with the latest report on the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus infections in Poland. According to the Ministry of Health, the number of infected is close to 1,200. 15 people have perished due to the virus. The Ministry of Health informs about new cases of coronavirus infections in Poland. So far, there are 1,163 infected people. Only today, there were 112 new cases confirmed. Unfortunately, there was also another fatal victim. A 67-year-old man died in a hospital in Koszalin. According to the Ministry of Health, the deceased person suffered from other diseases as well. It is the 15th victim of COVID-19 in the country. A special session of the Polish Parliament is underway. MPs had to meet in the Parliament to prepare the ground for tomorrow's remote session dedicated to the anti-crisis shield proposed by the government, meant to limit the slowdown of the economy in the wake of the global coronavirus outbreak. Our correspondent Karolina Bałdyga has more.
There
was a heated debate in the parliament despite only 41 MPs being present in the main assembly chamber. The other MPs were located in 11 other rooms throughout parliament in groups of up to 50. Today's debate focused on the new law proposal which will make remote proceedings possible. Today's debate was originally proposed to be conducted remotely, but opposition MPs from the Civic Coalition and the Confederation argued that such a step would be unconstitutional. As the Minister of Health said during the discussion, now is not the time for party bickering, now is the time to ensure the safety of Polish citizens. A similar position was taken by the Deputy Speaker, Ryszard Terlecki. At this time, all European parliaments are trying to find ways to operate remotely, including the European Parliament. They even lowered the number of MPs, the quorum, to 1/4 of the total. That is why I urge you to vote for the proposed changes to the rules. It seems to me that in the present situation, when we gather in this chamber and sit at a distance of a few meters away from each other, it is too bad that we didn't reach consensus on a remote session. Some of you wear protective gear, and it is your right to take care of your health. The situation is extraordinary. We have the right to take care of our health, fears, and protect our families. Now is not the time for party bickering. Now is the time to join forces to find the best solutions for our country. We shall stop party arguments of who said what and who is right. We shall openly discuss what to change in order to limit the impact of the coronavirus on our economy, how to make our health system better and more efficient. Our role should be to say how things are, not to make things worse by leveling unfounded accusations. The picture is not going to be pretty. We have seen examples from other countries. Our role is to say how things are, realistically, and make everything we can to ease the impact of the virus on our lives. One of the ways to do it is not to gather in large groups when we don't have to.
To ograniczyć tę liczbę. Ograniczyć poprzez nieprzychodzenie w miejsca, gdzie nie musimy.
The first two planes of the Polish national flag carrier, LOT Polish Airlines, carrying medical equipment purchased in China by Polish state-controlled mining giant KGHM, have landed in Warsaw. This is a result of arrangements made by President Andrzej Duda with the President of China, Xi Jinping. Within a few days, an air bridge is to be launched between China and Poland, which will enable a systematic supply of ventilators, masks and other types of personal protection equipment used in hospitals during the coronavirus outbreak.
Two planes carrying protective masks, goggles, gloves and other necessary medical equipment, including a batch of ventilators, have arrived in Poland. The third plane is to arrive at night. Barriers have been removed. The first of several planes which will fly to Poland today and in the coming days have landed at the Okęcie airport. The individual protective equipment which will be used by medical services was bought by various state-controlled Polish institutions. A special airlift was created to transport equipment. This connection being opened is the result of a conversation between President Andrzej Duda and the President of China. Many thanks to all the companies and CEOs for making this possible.
z koronawirusem.
The purchase of medical equipment was co-financed by state-controlled companies, including the Industrial Development Agency and mining giant KGHM.
Zorganizowaliśmy transport.
Being a state-controlled company, we feel responsible. Thus far, we have ordered 1.7 million masks, 400,000 gloves, 40,000 jumpsuits and 10,000 goggles.
1000 gogli.
To jest łączna wartość.
We see a great deal of commitment from volunteer workers. The total value of the order is 15 million zloty. We are also organizing future additional flights, so there will be much more equipment delivered.
Kombinezonów, kilkadziesiąt tysięcy gogli ochronnych.
More planes with medical equipment from China are to arrive in the coming days. Similar purchases were made by Italy, Czech Republic, Serbia and Lithuania.
The US government today indicted Venezuela's communist dictator Nicolas Maduro and other top Venezuelan officials on charges of narco-terrorism. The indictment is the latest measure taken by the Trump administration to highlight the criminal character of Maduro's regime.
The State Department has offered a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Maduro, who has been in power since 2013.
As you will hear, the Department of Justice is announcing the unsealing of a superseding indictment filed in the Southern District of New York against 4 defendants, including Nicolas Maduro, as well as the current head of Venezuela's Constituent Assembly, the former director of military intelligence, and a former high-ranking general for their involvement in narco-terrorism.
Attorney General William Barr accused Maduro and his associates of conspiring with a dissident faction of the leftist Colombian guerrilla group FARC to flood the United States with cocaine.
The indictment of Nicolas Maduro and his co-defendants alleges a conspiracy involving an extremely violent terrorist organization known as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the FARC, and an effort to flood the United States with cocaine.
Following the constitutional crisis of 2017, when the national parliament dominated by the opposition was stripped of legislative power, Maduro has ruled the country with dictatorial powers.
That is all for tonight. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for Poland Daily Business. Good night.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies throughout the country. We can expect temperatures leveling out at around 0 degrees, with cold spots in Białystok and Kraków at -1 degree, and the warmest spot in Koszalin at 2 degrees. Tomorrow we will see a continuation of this weather, with again partly cloudy skies throughout the country. The temperatures will vary between 9 and 16 degrees. The next 3 days will bring us clear skies on Saturday, partly cloudy skies on Sunday, and by Monday we can expect a slight drop in temperatures to 4 to 8 degrees, with possible sleet in the central and southern regions of Poland. And that is all for now. We here at Poland Daily wish you all the best with your health. Please stay safe, stay home.
You're watching Poland Daily Business, and tonight we will talk about the world economy and the consequences of the crisis that we see right now. Marcin Roszkowski of Instytut Jagielloński is our guest. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And let us start from a comparison, or at least historical comparison. Is this a crisis like in 1930s of the 20th century? Is it a crisis like 2008 with real estate crash, or this is something completely different?
It's completely different. The base of this, the base of this crisis is a huge health issue, which brings the economy down, but generally it goes the other way around. So I think comparing it to the crisis from the 30s or the crisis that we had on the financial market just 12 years ago, it's not true. So we need to cope as a society, as governments, with a different approach On one hand, the most important thing is the health issue to limit the spread of the virus and to safekeep the health system, because there is no health system that can support millions of people within hospitals. On the other hand, we need to have an economy to come back to after this freeze of everything is no more. So generally, the problem is that the approach of different governments, they are just testing the new situation. Only some benchmarks can turn to be true, but actually the situation is quite unique.
We've seen works of government of Great Britain who dismissed the how deadly this virus really is and said something about herd immunity. Right now they are singing different tune. They are very much in line with Polish government and its strict measures to curb movement of people. Bless you.
This is a mathematical issue. The virus is spreading the same way as the economy is developing, so by movement. So the more movement there is, the virus is spreading more. So this is just a mathematical issue. Thank you. A mathematical issue. Limiting the spread of the virus can only be done by limiting our activity. This has been done in Poland, and this has not been done in Italy, Great Britain, and the consequences are severe. And the consequences of these government policies are result in death. So this is a very sad approach that this threat has not been treated well. For example, in Great Britain, which actually also for Poland will be benefiting us in a negative way in a couple of months after we are through with the quarantine, because the borders will probably be closed for more than only the quarantine internally in Poland. And the threat of, because the virus is not spreading in all countries in the same way. So even if we, our government and our society is able to combat this virus here in Poland, it doesn't mean that other countries will have all the same speed of fighting this disaster.
It is interesting that the European Union decided that the border controls between the countries, the new border controls that are imposed during this health crisis, should not take longer than 15 minutes. And this could severely endanger the efforts of the national governments to curb the virus.
But the problem is that the European Union itself was in crisis before this health issue. So now it looks that only national countries are fighting this pandemic, and the European Union is just, let's say, watching and overseeing something that they are not capable of fighting. So generally all the messages from European Commission or European Union are just a laugh, because generally the countries will do, the member countries will do what is best for their citizens, and that's it. The European Union has agreed to let us money we have already given them. So it's a PR disaster also for the European Commission and the European Union. So it will be an even greater crisis for the European Union project as we fight the virus.
There might be two ways, because the ways are splitting. The first is that European Union will demand more authority also in the health issues, because it was denied to this organization by the nation state. And the other is to curb the European Union and showing that you are not really needed here. It's okay to have free trade, it's okay to have free movement of people, but your political agenda is absolutely excessive.
Yeah, but listen, what every country is taking care of its own interests, unfortunately. Look what has happened in France or in Germany. The medical supplies for Italy has been stopped and seized by German and French authorities, and they have not been sent to Italy, which actually turned out to be deadly for the Italian people, one of the aspects of the deadly situation in Italy. And this is done by sovereign countries, not by European Union. And European Union has no, let's say, power in these aspects. And I don't think that member states will be willing to give up their sovereignty in this aspect to European bureaucrats, which actually have ordered 200,000 of the face masks, probably only for the bureaucrats in Brussels. So, unfortunately, the European is in crisis, and the less they say, the better for the situation when we are after the coronavirus epidemic.
Well, we will see. Normally, in such terms, the international organs are demanding more power, and the governments are bowing to that. So we will see how the situation will
let them demand, but there are no legal basis on these demands. So I don't think the demands will be met. The problem is that, as most of Polish administration, also the European Union structures are home officing, so let them do whatever they have to do. But I'm not certain that they should interact with local governments, national governments, because it will just hurt them on the PR level, and it will hurt the European project, which actually is for the time being necessary. But the problem is that the bureaucrats are just destroying it, unfortunately.
Well, we will see. The situation is developing. One thing is certain, the word homework has reached a new meaning, as you can see by example of Marcin Roszkowski of Instytut Jagielloński.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being our guest, and that was it for Poland Daily Business. Please watch us tomorrow at the same time.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tomorrow will bring partly cloudy skies throughout the country. We can expect temperatures varying from 9 degrees in Gdańsk to up to 16 degrees in Katowice. In Europe, we can expect mostly clear skies, with partly cloudy skies in Northern Europe in Oslo, Helsinki, Vilnius, and Warsaw, as well as in the south in Rome and Sofia. We will also see overcast skies in Athens. The warmest spot on the map will be Ankara at 19 degrees, while the coldest will be Helsinki at 6 degrees. That is all for now. We here at Poland Daily wish you all the best of health in these hard times. Please stay safe, stay home.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. Since the times of epidemic recalls in us many metaphysical questions, we will talk today about the greatest Polish philosophers of 20th century. With me in the studio is Marek Kądzielski, former student of Professor Bogusław Wolniewicz and a Polish philosopher. Thank you for having the courage to be with us.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to your program.
Fever, sore throat, problem with breathing?
Fortunately, nothing like this. But it's worthwhile remembering that last plague in Europe resulted in a very outstanding literary output, which is Decameron by Boccaccio. So we should rather think in these categories that we can bring something fruitful to this world thanks to epidemic. But still, it is a cause to think in metaphysical in the times of plague.
Marek, since we're talking about the greatest philosophers of the 20th century in Poland, And one of them is Henrik Elsenberg, who died in 1967. So he managed to influence and to work in the 20th century and to write his most important works during the 20th century. And as we understand, he survived 2 wars, the First World War I and the Second World War. So I would say that he wouldn't be so much afraid of small epidemic of COVID, would he?
I think he wouldn't.
What he would do during such times of isolation?
If we are talking about Elsenberg, he was greatly interested in the philosophy of culture, and he dedicated his works into theory of values, and there was a very strong distinction between perfect values and utilitarian values. So it was something he strongly underlined. It was also not very popular opinion at the time that there are some values that are absolute ones. So they are not values because of something or for somebody. That some facts have values no matter what, let's say. So they are absolute. It was not very popular because this utilitarian way of thinking dominated even then. And this is also something that influenced greatly Wolniewicz. And in my opinion, he combined the Wittgenstein's ontology with the theory of values taken from Elsenberg. Especially, he explained that the values can be conceived as facts. So he put some ontological foundation to the theory of the values. But also he inherited this anthropological pessimism after Elsenberg, who was a very deep thinker in terms of anthropology. And one of his thoughts that Wolniewicz remembers is when Elsenberg, after World War II, expressed his opinion saying that the Third Reich was not an aberration in human history, it was an avant-garde, which means that the worst is to come, that it was just the beginning. So Wolniewicz shared this not very optimistic view, especially on human nature. So it is one of the most important features of his philosophy, his anthropology, that he inherited also from Schopenhauer, which is again a development of very ancient anthropology that is on one hand with Plato, and on the other hand we inherit this from Old and New Testament.
So we moved right now from Elsenberg to Bogusław Wolniewicz, who, as I understand, was his student and was influenced greatly by Elsenberg. So it is influenced by his pessimism, yes, in anthropology, and by also as foundation of his thinking, logic. That's what you're trying to say?
Yes, this is very good observation, but it's worthwhile noticing, because when people think that the logic is a foundation for metaphysics, they think that we have to formalize, we have to write logical equations to philosophize. It's not so. If you read Kant, if you read Elsenberg, you see that there is no formal logic inside, but you have to pay respect to logic. You have to give reasons in your philosophizing, which is not very popular because this is very difficult, simply. And especially in the 20th century, when we have to deal with mathematical logic, this is difficult, but this is the only way. And in this way, the Elsenberg, let's say, responded to the demand that was formulated by Józef Bocheński, another great Polish philosopher, who was a priest and who wanted the church to continue a kind of analytical metaphysics. So some of Wolniewicz's papers are dedicated to theology, They are very deep, although very difficult at the same time. But these are fundamental questions. So one of his essays is an essay about the epiphany of the evil. Because in the 20th century...
One of the essays of Wolniewicz is the epiphany of the devil. And yes, and here I would like to ask the question, because he tries to find a way how the devil works and how he worked during the... or showed himself. So revelation of devil a little bit in the 20th century is very hard to say. I'm aware of right now what we said, but that's in the books of Wolniewicz, the revelation of devil in Auschwitz, in death camps, in Soviet gulags, during the World War II and during the World War I. Is it correct?
It is correct, and it is in line with the opinion of George Weigel, who used to say that we cannot understand the history of the 20th century if we don't apply metaphysics and metaphysical terms to it, because in other way they are not comprehensible. In a similar way, Lem responded to this in one of his late essays that is also dedicated to phenomena of the Holocaust, and this is purely metaphysical, very painful, very deep, and absolutely unique. Only Karl Jaspers wrote anything similar about German guilt, their responsibility for the Holocaust, but Lem produced an explanation to this phenomenon that is beyond any other, in my opinion.
So right now we moved to Stanisław Lem a little bit, but
yes.
Let's go back, because we're going to talk about Lem, but let's not pull all the cards on the table in the same time. Let's go back to Wolniewicz again, and he wrote 4 volumes of philosophy and values. And in one of them, he explains, he talks about devil. He talks about his epiphany of devil in the 20th century. But another one of his essays is about how God thinks. How God thinks.
It is the answer to the question how we can discuss metaphysics, religion in the 21st century, how we can tell about God. And this is in opposition to a dominant opinion that we can say nothing about God. We know nothing about him. We shouldn't even discuss. It's a mystery. I think it's an insult for reason, because what we share with God is reason. Of course, finite versus infinite. So consequently, this is our obligation to try understanding how God thinks. And again, Wolniewicz does it in a logical way. He formulates some assumptions and explains how God's mind can think. Coming from a famous quotation from Isaiah, that my thoughts are not your thoughts, meaning that God is using different logic than our logic. But still, there is a kind of logic, mathematical logic behind this. And Wolniewicz tries to develop the rudiments of this logic, because this is extremely complicated, but he succeeded somehow, and this is the only paper I know that is dedicated to this problem. Very deep. He was opposed by some other logicians, but he managed to give answers to all the, let's say, accusations. So I think it's very worthwhile reading, and it's absolutely unique. I hope that sooner or later also the Church will see how deep thinker he is, and that this is the way that the Church should continue with their theology.
If you ever ask yourself how God thinks, you can seek for the answer in one of the Bogusław Wolniewicz essays in philosophy and values. Those are extremely important and interesting topics. And right now, when we all have a little bit more of time, maybe it's worth to indulge in this intellectual, absolutely amazing meal. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the studio to discuss more fascinating facts from Polish history, I'm joined by Professor Krzysztof Jabłonka. Professor, the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, one of the political movements in Poland was Christian democracy. How did that arise?
Trzeba przyznać, że takim wstrząsem, który uruchomił wszelkie ruchy społeczne.
Such a shock that triggered all social movements in Polish society was the 100th anniversary of the celebration of the Constitution of the 3rd of May. The 3rd of May, 1891, is a powerful demonstration, and following this, 4 movements are born. The first of them, the workers' movement, was to generate a socialist party in 1892.
Partię socjalistyczną. Najpierw powstanie na emigracji, przeniesie się do Warszawy i Wilna.
It first rose in exile and moved to Warsaw and Vilnius. In 1893, a national movement was created, sort of a national league, which will break away from the Polish League and formulate a separate national democratic party called Endecja in Polish. It is only when the Pope issues a pro-social encyclical, thus the workers' movement, that Christian democracy form in 1894. Initially, this purely religious movement would transform into a social movement, or Catholic social teaching. Finally, in 1895 in Rzeszów, the Polish peasants would form and merge into a peasant movement. And these 4 movements would become the pillars of future independence. The Christian democratic movement is essentially identical to the New Democratic movement, with one exception. The national movement is closed, particular to the borders of Poles and Poland. The Christian movement is open to other similar Christian movements. It is simply universal, enriched with Catholic universalism. As such, it is compatible with the Christian democracy of Germany, Russia, Austria, Italy, and other countries. Of course, national movements were mutually exclusive, as they were ruled by so-called national egoism. Both of these movements merged quite strongly and generated 3 great representatives. Firstly, Ignacy Jan Paderewski. A great pianist, showman of his times, today we would compare him to the likes of the Rolling Stones. He moved a huge amount of audience on all 5 continents. He was one of the first musicians that visited Australia, America, and South Africa. He was applauded everywhere, and as a Polish Prime Minister, he played a gigantic role when signing the Versailles Treaty. There, next to Roman Dmowski, he signed his signature, a Christian Democrat with a National Democrat. Later, another representative will be Father Adamski, who played a great part in the process of Silesia becoming part of Poland. The third representative of these movements was the Silesian uprising dictator Wojciech Korfanty, a great historical figure, a man who created himself. He was a representative of Ruda Śląska in the Reichstag. Korfanty unfortunately came into conflict with Józef Piłsudski, and it can be said that, fortunately for him, he died before World War II. All in all, he brought the Silesian people to Poland.
Ale lud śląski nam do Polski przyprowadził.
And Professor, what influence did the Christian Democratic Party have on the newly independent Poland after 1918?
Pamiętajmy, Polska jednak scalała się.
Let us remember that Poland merged with various partitions, therefore the parties were regional. While the Endecja, the National Democratic Party, reigned in Greater Poland and merged with Rzeczpospolita, the Esdecja, or socialist movement, was in the center of Poland, in Warsaw, Łódź and industrial districts, while the peasant movement was in Galicia. The Christian Democratic movement was in Silesia, especially targeting miners and all kinds of state employees. Hence, this movement is called the Labour Movement. Eventually, a Labour Party will be formulated, which would raise the level of politicization of the average citizen. Everyone who provided for themselves and was already sufficiently aware, or at the intellectual level, co-created the movement and was its member or supporter. Hence, two things were combined in Christian democracy: patriotism with Catholic universalism, but not only, because evangelicals and sporadically Orthodox were also Christian Democrats. They simply thought that the religious factor was important in social life. Not necessarily political, but certainly part of Polish patriotism. It was thanks to these four movements that it was possible to unzip the tent which was the Republic of Poland. The supporters of Chief Piłsudski believed that he was the middle vertical mast that raised the entire tent over our lands and protected them. All other groups were extreme and monarchists. Communists simply did not enter this trend, and these four main currents were democratic in name and in principle. Hence, until the end of the Second Polish Republic, one can speak of better or worse functioning of democratic principles in society. These were, once more, the Socialist or Social Democratic Movement, the National Democratic Movement, the Christian Democratic Movement, and the People's Democratic Movement. They were the main inspirations of political life. This was also prevalent during the occupation, where an underground parliament was created, including the representatives of these four groups.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on this episode, so it remains for me to say thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and do join us again on Poland Daily History.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. We're glad you could make it, and remember, watch us because we're watching you. In this series of episodes, we'll be going to the PRL Museum.
Waiting for a ride, feeling like a loner. No.
That's right, the museum of what Poland was like under the communist regime. It's a fascinating look at the past and back into a time that we don't have to live in anymore, thankfully. But nonetheless, a full range of communist kitsch is on display. There's a little cafe serving treats of the time, as well as coffee made in an ancient machine. Still tasty in its own way. There are plenty of artifacts of the time on display. There's even the reconstruction of a small flat of the time with all the kinds of machines, utensils, and clothing that you would have seen, not to mention furnishings and furniture. It's all a truly guilty pleasure. After the People's Republic of Poland Museum, we'll go to the shooting range at FSO, and my guest, Maria Kadzielska, will learn to shoot. She'll be shooting for the first time. This is the safest and most popular shooting range in Poland, where all the major competitions are held. And it's located in the old FSO factory. So stay tuned for thrills and spills on the next series of episodes of Poland Daily Travel. I'm Will Richardson. Thanks for watching. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. We're at the FSO shooting range. We're just on the outskirts of Warsaw, and this used to be a factory where they made FSO cars. It's been closed for a while, but the owner of it, you can hear somebody shooting there, the owner of it has converted this into a shooting range. Somebody is over here getting out ammunition and organizing weapons. That's what's going on off camera. At any rate, in the last episode, you saw our Norwegian friend, the young Magnus from Bergen. Boy, he had to go at this target, didn't he? Look at that grouping. This guy had no chance with Magnus around. It wasn't that far. It was only about 50 meters. It wasn't even 50 meters. How far was it? 30 meters? 35?
30 meters, yeah.
30 meters away. Okay. But still, it's good grouping, good shooting. And you, too, can come and do this at the FSO shooting range. And they have a variety of weapons. What kind of weapons do you have here?
Everything.
You got everything?
Almost everything.
Grenade launcher?
If you would like the grenade launcher, we can organize it.
Can we go outside and do that? Yeah, that'd be great.
It's a matter of budget.
Blow up some old FSO cars?
we have here a full scope of
arms.
Russian-made weapon.
So Kalashnikov and
everything.
various
Tepesh,
handguns,
Mosin,
machine guns.
LPD,
Right, okay.
Diktarev, everything. Full
Okay.
auto Diktarev. It's an amazing experience.
Wow.
We've got here the
Full automatic. What is it again?
full automatic.
Of what? What kind of weapon that was it?
It's a Diktarev RPD.
Okay,
RPD,
right, because
yeah.
not everybody would
And
know
what we're
that.
going to shoot?
They don't all know this
With
Russian.
what are we going to shoot
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
First-
Marisha is about to shoot. Are you nervous?
A little bit.
She is, because I can tell she's nervous, because she's like this. Everything's going to be fine. Just relax. You're going to be great.
She looks calm down.
She's going to be amazing. Doesn't she look like she's ready to go?
Yeah.
She looks
I
like
can
she's
do
ready
it.
for action. You are. You're right. You're going to be great.
Okay.
Okay. So let's instruct Marisha. What does she need to do in order to shoot well?
Okay, first of all, you have to focus on my instruction. Okay.
Yes.
There's a place for fun, but here we are dealing with the firearms. So just focus what I will talking to you, and we will have a fun when we will doing this safety. Okay.
Yes.
You have safety, air protection, eye protection. That's great, but there's one more thing.
Yes.
Here is a brass.
Yes.
When the bullet go outside the pistol or rifle,
Yes.
make a lot of heat. This brass is very heat, and this brass comes directly to your breast here. Just close.
Close your jacket.
Close your jackets.
'Cause it's gonna go right here.
Guys, it's amazing thing that brass every time find the way here.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to be.
It's being ejected, so you got to be zipped up.
And this
Okay.
is safety. Why? You know
I'm
why?
zipping up.
Yeah. Because when
Buttoning up,
when this brass came here, you'll be a bit nervous.
Make you nervous and you miss the next shot.
Just this is for the protection. Okay.
Very good. What else should she
Will.
know? Yes, of course. Yeah.
This is a small thing, but helps a lot.
Well, I can imagine. I would like to have it on my breast.
We don't want the bullets exploding on your chest. That would be, let's just say, not a good advertisement. Okay.
Very good.
Okay,
Very
she's
good.
ready.
Very good.
So what's she going to shoot? Let's see.
I recommend you the Glock 17.
Yeah.
I am pointing the barrel into
Away.
the safe direction. It means
course, yeah.
it's we have to be careful
Right.
to not sweep the people. That's the safety rule.
Right.
We have 4 safety rules.
Okay.
If you will fulfill the one, will be okay. First is a weapon. Treat your weapon as always loaded. You
Treat it
cannot-
as if it's always loaded.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Always
Yeah.
loaded.
It's
yeah.
always possibly dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, when you disarm, when you release the clips on magazine and check the chamber, it's empty. But every time, when I found any weapon or when I take a weapon, I check the chamber.
Yeah.
Okay, it's empty.
Yeah.
This is safety gun. I can present you.
Of
yeah?
course. Yeah.
The second rule, we call this BLOS. Like Bron is a weapon. L like Lufa, it means barrel.
Right.
Barrel. Point the barrel into the safety direction.
Point the barrel into the safe
Yeah.
direction. Okay.
If anything happened, when you press the trigger, the bullets go in the safety direction, nothing happened.
Right.
The third is O, like autochenie. It means environment. You are on the range. Nobody could cross the fire line, but you have to be careful when you, for example, when you shooting outside. Somebody can go from another direction. Somebody can go ahead of your firing
So
direction.
always be aware of that other people can be
you
around.
You are responsible for your behavior, but you are responsible for all environment. This is the safety.
And what's the fourth rule?
The trigger control.
Right.
I tell you why.
Safety, or you mean the safety, or?
Okay, spust. Point the finger on the trigger.
Okay.
Only when you are ready to shoot, not before. Just
Right.
So you're resting the finger on the barrel until you're ready to shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Marisha,
Yes.
why we are doing
Okay.
this?
Very good
Let me just.
question.
Why?
I'm going to step back and let
take a
him
look.
get in there.
Yes.
Just squeeze
Yes.
this. Yeah. Okay. We are the animals. We are the human, but animals. We have something which help us to survive in the environment.
Yes.
And one of these things is when I talking with you and doing like this. Boom! What we are doing? We are squeezing. We are ready to fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you are shooting, if somebody touch you or something, you are squeezing. So for safety rules, put your finger on the trigger only when you will be ready to fight, ready to shoot. Yeah.
Yes.
If something happened, okay, but not earlier. This is the four safety rules. If everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is she ready to start now?
Yes.
Let's get her ready.
Okay.
Okay, folks, come right back. We'll be right back on Poland Daily Travel after the bumper. We're going to watch Maria get ready. Folks, you could all do this. If you come here, Jarek or other people will help you to learn how to shoot. And very good instruction. That was excellent about safety, because always in the firing range, the most important thing is safety and being aware that what you're playing with is not a toy. It's a dangerous, it's a weapon. Okay, so we'll come right back, and Marisha, we're going to get her ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we'll be right back.